Hey everybody, how's it going? The Tour of Britain is coming to Cornwall this weekend and it's exciting for a lot of reasons. Not just because of the spectacle of an international bike race, but also what that brings to people that don't always see events like this. An international sporting event on your doorstep. An international circus, if you will, that's travelling to your front door. But I can't ever do it justice, so I'm going to go meet with someone that can put it into much better words than I ever could. And if it wasn't for them, the event wouldn't be coming to Cornwall in the first place. Dave Potter. I haven't seen him for a few years because of COVID, job changes, career changes, but that's about to change. We'll sit down with him, find out more about the Tour of Britain.
How did the idea come about? Well, it was on a wet and windy Wednesday in Wales whilst waiting. Well, exactly. I did start thinking. Hello, Chris.
5 years.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that we're sat here now because it was 5 years ago that we literally sat in this room, and I remember saying to you, how do we bring a race to Cornwall, the Tour of Britain? And it was the start of something that I didn't think would take 5 years. I thought it would take 3 months. But yeah, it's amazing to think this Sunday the Tour of Britain is going to be starting at Penzance. It's just fantastic. I'm so pleased that everything that had to be put together has come together in light of all the, the hurdles we've had to climb over, everything from getting the local authority on board, getting the funding for it, COVID, and the fact that we've got a Cornwall cycling team in there as well. That's, I think, icing on the cake, really. The only sad thing for me is that you're not on the line as a racer, but as you say, you'll be there as a fan, which is something new for you. But I think it's just fantastic for Cornwall. I really do. Yeah, I'm pleased. But we follow cycling because I've always loved cycling. My dad cycled. And I really started watching professional road racing in, I guess, the early 80s when Channel 4 first set up and they started showing the Tour de France. And then the days of Greg LeMond, Laurent Fignon. I've loved it. I fell out of love with it, I'll be honest, with the whole Lance Armstrong thing. And then got back into it. Must have been maybe leading up to the Olympics, I don't know. London Olympics. But I've always loved it, and when I retired from sort of full-time employment, Maria and I used cycling to go and visit beautiful parts of the country and the continent. They never take you to bad places, do they? And I remember when we would go and watch the Tour de France, as the peloton had gone by, I would turn to Maria and then say, well, our Tour de France starts now, and we'd think, well, where exactly are we? It's down some by-road somewhere, and I think it's a great way to see the countryside, a country, and it was on a wet and windy Wednesday in Wales, whilst waiting for the peloton to come by 5 years ago, that the question was asked, why doesn't it ever come to Cornwall? So I came back and we had a conversation. I thought you would be the perfect person to build the route. And
you found out I was clueless.
No, not at all. There were two things that had to be done, I think, to satisfy Sweet Spot, the organisers. One was they'd had to have confidence that the route was okay, and the other was that Cornwall, who hadn't held it in its current guise at all, could do so. So, perfect, have somebody on board who's ridden the Tour of Britain and been a professional rider, and then somebody who has been involved in bringing the race to their area. And chap Zsolt Schuler was the person I got hold of in Devon. Devon, by the way, have held the race, I think, about 10 times in recent years, making over 41 million pounds to their economy. So I thought there was an economic argument. There was confidence given to Sweet Spot that we could hold it. The route was, if it was good enough for Chris Opie, it would be good enough for Sweet Spot. None of the sprinters could claim it was too hilly because a sprinter would had created it. Maybe that was payback by you, I don't know. But it was, everything came together, and then obviously going, first of all, I think getting confidence or understanding where people in Cornwall were with hosting such an event. So after we spoke, late November, 16, January 17, I wrote to all the town and parish councils asking if they were happy, outlining the race, asking if they were happy for the race to come to Cornwall and would they be happy for it to come through their patch. And I remember getting replies from about 162 of those authorities, representing, must have been 86% of the population. Of those that replied, 98% were positive. So that was fantastic. I felt that I had an argument to go and discuss the issues with the project with Cornwall Council, which I did, and because you have to get the local authority on board, it's their roads and underwriting costs, etc. And that was the start of it. I had yourself, John Martin was involved from the very early days, the Mayor of Helston at the time, and Loic Rich, who is still a Cornwall councillor for Truro. And it was important to get those different elements on board. And I think whilst there was a May 17, an election which stalled things slightly, it played into our hands that new members, cross-party, were keen to do something. And that, it turned out, was the vehicle that was, that's what they chose to put their weight behind. So that was good that we had cross-party support at local level. We had town and parish councils backing it without regard to who's going to fund it, but they were keen to have something. And I think there's a lot to be said for having a really significant sporting event. It could be any event, but just an inspirational event, because whilst we live in a lovely part of the world, we don't get lots of inspirational events in Cornwall for young people to aspire to. I think it was watching a high-level race when you were young that made you think you wanted to become a professional cyclist. So I think if it can inspire youngsters to do something that they maybe felt otherwise was outside their grasp, nothing is impossible. No. That's one thing I'd like to get out of this. For me, on the day, September the 5th, it will be amazing for Cornwall. It's an event, it'll roll out of town and move on to stage 2. And on the day there should be an economic benefit to the local community, which is fantastic for all the businesses that benefits.
You've made it sound like it happened and it wasn't too much work, but you gave up a huge amount of your own personal time.
Yeah.
For a very long period of time as well. You rallied everyone to gain everyone's support. It wasn't like it happened easily. Obviously lots of people were passionate and they understood exactly why, and that's because you were able to explain to them the benefits of why and why people deserve to have this amazing international sporting event coming to their front door. You never gave up, and you always did it for reasons that won't ever directly benefit you, or not benefit you at all, other than you'll get to see a sporting spectacle on Sunday. And I think that's what's really special, Dave, is you did this for the people of Cornwall, for people that want to see, or perhaps don't even know that this sort of thing exists. You will inspire not just a generation, but just a population, which is even bigger.
Yeah, I've never really done things for me, but I used the fact that the race isn't coming through my hometown as currency, because some politicians gave their full weight behind the race as long as it was coming through their patch. So I could quite easily come back and say, well, it's not coming through my town, and it's not about my town, it's about Cornwall. And particularly the people in Cornwall that might not get to see a high-level sporting event, just to inspire people, that I think I said previously, to inspire people to say that if they ever think, I'd like to do something, I'm not sure how to go about it, and therefore it's never pursued, you can do anything. That's what I really would like to see. I remember you saying about the route from St Just past Zena will be one of the best bits of riding that any professional rider will have in a peloton. Those of us who've been along that road can't deny that. It is just amazing. Yeah. It's just that undulating form past the engine houses with the backdrop of the ocean. It just is amazing, and it just highlights what a beautiful county we live in. But it's more than just the day. For me, there's a legacy, and I think if we had better cycling facilities, a cycling hub in Cornwall, that would be great. Yeah, I just think it's so much more than just a race. It really is. If you want to watch the race in Penzance, go along. I think everything opens up at about 9 o'clock. They roll out at 11. On the Saturday, the day before, there's criterium racing, amateur racing in Penzance. They're really, really embracing it, Penzance. I think after the race has rolled out on the Sunday, there's a big screen and there'll be other events going on. I know that the Pirates, I think, is playing in Penzance against the Royal Navy in a warm-up match on the Friday evening. So there's whole loads going on in Penzance, as there is in Bodmin. But wherever you watch the race, whether it's in a town at the top of a hill and in a crowded area, or just at a road junction where you're the only people there, there's a beauty in that. You say I gave up a lot of time. A lot of people gave up their time. You gave up your time. You came along to see me when you didn't know me at all. John Martin, former Mayor of Helston, Lowick Rich, Cornwall Council for Truro, just came along and got involved because they thought it was a worthy project. Cornwall Council have been amazing. Without them, this wouldn't be happening for so many reasons. So many people in so many departments have been working hard to make this event happen. But people like Nigel Blackler, definitely an influential character with regard to this happening. Trying to get people on board is always difficult, but once they get it, once they understand the benefits of it, it's very much easier if they to get their buy-in. And I remember taking Nigel and Lowick up to one of the races a few years ago. Near Exeter it started and then finished in Barnstable. And it was after that, Nigel particularly said that he got it. And once you can picture what it's all about, you either buy into it or you don't, but invariably you do. It's so much more than a race. It's a community event. It really is a community event. And although it's on Sunday, I hope there are loads of youngsters out on the roadside just enjoying it. So if you are able to go and see the race at all, get out, watch it live, and then watch the rest on TV. It's a great advert for Cornwall, I think.
I think my big question for you is, would you do it all again? Would you live through this last 5 years of the roller coaster of trying to get such an event into Cornwall?
Yeah, without doubt, absolutely I would. Whilst I loved the event and the effort required, I didn't realise it would take so long. I liked the challenge of doing something that I knew nothing about really. Doing it from my living room with just nothing more than an iPad and an internet connection. I found that really challenging. Just working through myself how I would go about it. Yeah, I would definitely, whether it's cycling or any other project I'd have a go at, but this particularly, without doubt, I have no regrets whatsoever. I would do it again. It's just so nice to do something that so many people feel is a great event to be involved with. Yeah, I'm very happy how it's turned out so far. Yeah, I think it's wonderful. I would do it no problem again. I enjoy the victories, and whenever my team lose, I say just ignore the defeats, enjoy the victories. Life is too short to dwell on negatives. So because I was surrounded by the people I've just mentioned and others who were so positive about this coming to Cornwall, it made it much easier. But when you're working with people who aren't so positive or are actively negative about something, I find it hard to get involved with that now. I'm just 60 and I want to enjoy life.
Yeah. Dave, I just want to say a huge thank you for giving up a considerable amount of your time, not just today. It was quite a pleasure coming here and seeing you again for the first time in a while, but over the last 5 years, just never giving up, always pushing forwards, always believing that this was going to happen, and then telling us all about it today. So thank you, Dave.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And if you're watching this, and you're watching the Tour of Britain on Sunday, it's all because of Dave. So thank you again, and enjoy the race. Hope you enjoy the video. We'll see you next time.
So I think,
So if anyone sees you...
I think if I pitch up in that at the corner of a road a few times, Andy Hawes may well eventually recognise us. Yeah.